The Space Marines of Warhammer 40k are the most iconic part in all the setting, and they are as varied as the nature of humanity itself. Some of them kind defenders of humanity, others noble wardens of our imperium, and some dutiful empire builders, and many more all in between. But then, you have the Black Templars. The Black Templars are fucking crazy. And it seems that some people seem to have forgotten that the fanatical, zealous Space Crusaders are not exactly the nicest chaps. So everyone was pretty excited when the Black Templars Codex got announced. But when it came out, I heard a lot of people were rather upset with the lore, them saying that they retconned a lot of stuff about the Black Templars and made them evil. Grimdark was a term that was thrown around a lot. So this piqued my interest and I decided to take a look at it. So I went to Reddit. I got the codex through the appropriate, correct, legal means. Yes. Alright, look bro, I need you to be easy on me bro, I'm out here fighting demons. Like, I just got a box of Saturnine Terminators. Those bastards ain't even halfway finished, and then GW decides to fully release the Mark II Assault Marines, bro. Like, and don't even get me started on the Fellblade. Like, it's looking grim, bro. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. But my plastic crack addiction aside, I started reading through it, and I was very surprised, mainly because this is standard Black Templar fare, and I realized that turns out a lot of the newer folks don't really know what the Black Templars are all about. So in today's video, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking a look at the 10th edition codex. Not just talking about the Black Templars and how it actually makes perfect sense for what they are, but also going through a little bit of their history, and reminding people that the Black Templars are once again fucking crazy. So before we get into the Templars, let's talk about Space Marines proper. Space Marines are many things, as I said in the intro, but they're also kinda like wild. Space Marines are not nice people. The Imperium is not a nice place. And whilst yes, we do have examples of nice Space Marines, nice people in the Imperium, and 40k as a whole just having some goodness to it, those are the exceptions, not the rule. Like, the Imperium is not a good place. Space Marines, large in part, are not good people. A lot of the newer folks seem to miss that with 40k. 40k is a setting where there are a few good people trying to make the best of a bad situation, not the opposite. So yeah, take that with a little grain of salt, because even a salamander hates a heretic. But the real kicker comes to what defines a heretic, and the Black Templars' definition is broad and sweeping to say the least. The Black Templars are a second founding successor chapter hailing from the Imperial Fists. They were founded by Sigismund, the Emperor's champion. Essentially, during the Siege of Terror, he went around one-shotting every single dude he could find. If you were a leader, he beat your ass, and he was one monstrous boy. But when the legions were sundered into chapters, the most zealous and fanatical joined Sigismund and became his Black Templars. An ever-crusading chapter, or the Eternal Crusade as they put it. They are Crusaders, in every single sense of the word. However, these aren't IRL Crusaders, nor are they Fantasy Crusaders. These are 40k Crusaders, which means they're a lot more violent and a lot more bloody. But instead of me waffling on, let's get it straight from the horse's mouth. Faith in the God Emperor burns with an unquenchable flame within the souls of the Black Templars. It fuels a zealous wrath and knightly devotion that is impossible to hold back or escape. They wage a never-ending and all-consuming crusade against the Emperor's foes. Hatred and repugnance drive them, fueling one shockingly violent assault after another. For those they denounce as most abhorrent, there is no offer of redemption, or even a merciful death. The heretic, the alien, the mutant, the witch. None are spared the blade or the pyre at the hands of these righteous executioners. Scions of Rogal Dorn, the Black Templars exemplify their Primarch's unflinching will and stubbornly unwavering clarity of purpose. In them is the spirit of the Emperor's original legions kept alive, but they are his eternal Crusaders. They bestride the stars like avenging paladins, the font of their fate, a lit brazier that illuminates all their foes would hide. With zealous fanaticism, wedded to the superhuman genetic gifts of the Emperor, none can stand before their fury. To the Black Templars, there is no ambiguity in the galaxy. It is the Emperor's by divine right. Those who dare deny this fundamental rule, by word, deed, or existence, cry out for the sword's edge and the fire's caress. The Black Templars offer both. That, I kid you not, is literally the first ever thing you read when you crack open a Black Templars codex. And it's pretty fitting. The Black Templars were made to be Crusaders, the Eternal Crusade. For those of you who don't know, The breaking up of the legions was incredibly difficult, but arguably most difficult for Rogal Dorn and his boys. Rogal Dorn's whole thing was that he was the Praetorian of Terror. His boys were the Wall of Terror, the Lost Wall. To have that wall sundered brick by brick and have it scattered across the galaxy was something not only he could not even imagine, he refused outright. It took him getting his ass handed to him by Perturabo as well as Guilliman's intervention and a whole lot of convincing for him to actually agree to it. And lo and behold, the Black Templars were formed by the most zealous, the most fanatical, and the most devoted, i.e., those who could not adjust, the most unhinged. Whilst the Imperial Fists in 40k often get derided as being a nothing burger, a faction with little to no lore and nothing exciting about them, the Imperial Fists in 30k are a very, very different beast. A little too different, some might say. Yeah, they kind of got the Ultramarine 5th edition treatment a little bit there, made people pretty upsetty spaghetti. Rightfully so, mind you. But it's very important to know who their founder was and who these founding members were. And in essence, a lot of them were broken men. Now, why were they broken, I hear you ask? Well, that's because they found their faith. Throughout the entirety of the Horus Heresy, there are so many things that were thought concrete that were absolutely shattered in the heresy. And this drove a lot of Marines to question. And when one fails, another usually arrives to take its place, and in this case, it was faith. Sigismund, and many of the Imperial Fists who would become Black Templars, would find this devotion in the Emperor. They would generally believe him to be a god, to be divine. And this would be the catalyst that would turn the Black Templars into what they are. Because Rogal Dorn was not too happy about this. Taken from Shadows of Treachery. "You have betrayed me," said Rogal Dorn. Sigismund staggered. He felt as if the words had flayed all away his conditioning and control. If Dorn noticed the effect of his words, he did not pause. "We are made to serve. That is our purpose." Dorn's voice echoed off the raked stone tiers of the amphitheater. He was shaking, as if huge forces were straining inside him. It was the most terrifying thing Sigismund had ever seen. "Every Primarch, every son of a Primarch, exists to serve the Imperium. Our existence has no other meaning." Dorn took a step forwards, his presence seeming to tower taller than the statues of his brothers. "Our choices are not our own. Our fate is not ours to choose. Your will is mine, and through me, the Emperor's. I trusted you, and you squandered that trust on pride and superstition." Sigismund finally found his voice. "I stand with you." His voice was raw and unfamiliar, a stranger's words coming out of his mouth. "I will stand against the enemies of the Imperium until I die." "You believe the lies of a charlatan, a demagogue who pretends to powers we fought to free humanity from. I gave you a duty, and you turned away from it. Your duty is not here. It was amongst the stars." "I serve the Imperium," he said, his voice shaking. "You serve your own pride," spat Dorn. Sigismund swayed but caught himself. He felt hollow, his mind empty of all the surety and fire that had defined him. Keela was wrong, he thought. This was the choice of death alone, and unremembered. There is only one path open to me now. Sigismund began to kneel. "My lord." "You will stand," roared Dorn. "You have no right to kneel before me." Sigismund drew his sword, its gleaming length cold black in the fading light. "My life is yours, my lord," he said, then turned the sword hilt to Dorn and bowed his head, the flesh of his neck exposed to the collar of his armor. "Take it." Dorn reached out and took the sword. His eyes glinted down its length, hard, dangerous, the eyes of death itself. Dorne spun the blade, a movement so fast that Sigismund saw it only as a blur. He had an instant to think, to remember the smells of a home lost, carried on a dried wind. His father brought the sword down. The tip of the sword punched through the smooth marble and buried itself a foot deep in stone. Dorne took his hand from the hilt, leaving the blade quivering in front of Sigismund. "No," said Dorne, a low growl. "No. The Imperium will endure, but you have made your decision. There will be no easy end for you. None will ever know of what you have done. I will not allow your fear and pride to sow doubt in our ranks. Your shame will be yours to bear alone." Sigismund felt as if the vestry's vast circumference had closed to a tight circle around him. His body felt distant, the touch of his armor uncomfortable against his skin. "And you will continue in rank and position as you have, and you will never speak to any other of this. The Legion and the Imperium will never know of my judgment. Your duty will be to never let your weakness taint those who have more strength and honor than you." Sigismund felt his heart beating. His mouth was dry. "As you will, father." "I am not your father!" Dorne roared, his anger filling the air and echoing from the amphitheater walls. Sigismund fell to the floor. He could feel nothing. A ringing filled his head. It was a scream, he realized. A forgotten scream of loss and pain. Mute. Inside his soul that was no longer human. Dorne looked down at him, his face swallowed by dusk shadows. "You are not my son," he said quietly. "And no matter what your future holds, you will never be." Dorne turned and walked away. Sigismund watched Rogal Dorn until his outline vanished into the gloom. Alone he knelt, gripping the hilt of the sword with both hands. He breathed softly, resting his forehead on his gauntlets. The darkness of the vestry surrounded him. His pulse slowed. He thought of all the battles he had fought, all the enemies cut down by the sword he knelt before, the restless ferocity, the focus of complete certainty guiding his every blow. All gone, all wiped away by his choice on the phalanx. The sword felt unfamiliar in his grip, as if the weapon that he had borne for decades was no longer his. He raised his head. Above him the stars were crystal fragments against sable. "I am alive," he thought, "and I still serve." He stood up, pulling the sword from the stone floor, its edges glittering like sharpened obsidian. "I will not fail." In the quiet of Terran night, the words sounded like a vow. So to say that was quite a reaction would be an understatement. Now, if like me, when you first read this excerpt, you were very, very taken aback by just how vitriolic the hatred was that Dorne gave to Sigismund, well then that's just because you were missing the context. The Imperium was built on the idea of the imperial truth, which is essentially an atheistic belief. Religion is false, there are no gods, there is only the truth of science, of logic, of reason. The Space Marines and the Primarchs were created to uphold that. It didn't matter that that was a lie. To the Primarchs, that was what the Imperium was. If you went against that, you were just as bad as anyone else. The Space Marine was meant to be the pinnacle of the Imperium, and to Dorne, Sigismund just threw everything away for a lie. He was truly not his son anymore. Again, it didn't matter that by this point, we know that gods existed. Human beings are human beings. We think with our heart rather than our head more often than not. Now, why do I bring attention to this point? Because of how much it impacted Sigismund. Like, even myself, knowing the context beforehand and going into this, I was absolutely shocked by how vitriolic Dorne was. It was actually one of the harder things I've ever had to read in 40k. I know that may sound like a lot, but it's true. Maybe because of how real it is. As I know there's a good chance that someone watching this has had a conversation with a parent like that before. Or something similar. It's not an easy pill to swallow. And whether we like it or not, it leaves a mark. And it certainly left a mark on Sigismund. For even though he and Dorne would have some type of reconciliation, kinda, that mark left by Dorne essentially disowning his son, that would continue forever. Sigismund made a choice. He chose the God Emperor, so he could not fail. For if he had failed, his father would have been right about everything, including that he was not worthy to be a son of Dorne. Something in Sigismund broke that day, and so did many of the Black Templars. And when reason has been abandoned, all that's left is faith. Faith so potent, it turns into madness. And that is what the Black Templars are all about. The Black Templars are a prime example of a core theme in Warhammer 40k, that being generational trauma. The deeds of the Emperor fall to the Primarchs, those of the Primarchs fall to his sons, and repeat ad nauseum. I may do another video covering that detail in a bit more depth and detail, but for today's video and in the modern day 40k, the Black Templars still bear the weight of Sigismund's shame, and they would do anything and everything to erase that shame. But they are sons of Dorne, so words alone will not do, for it is by deeds that the weight of a soul is truly measured. So the Black Templars will do whatever they need. And oh boy, they do a lot of doing. So now that you have all that context, let's talk a little bit more about the Black Templars and why exactly people were upset. First is how they treated their psykers. What psykers, I hear you ask? And what's the true, the Black Templars don't have any librarians. They do have to have astropaths as well as navigators. And yeah, they don't really treat them the best. The Black Templars do not maintain a core of battle psykers, known in other chapters as librarians. The heirs of Sigismund cleave to a decree the Emperor is said to have made before the terrors of the Horus Heresy had unfolded, forbidding the use of supernatural powers amongst the Space Marines. The Black Templars despise what they see as occult manipulation and witchcraft amongst Xenos psykers, heretic sorcerers, and warp-tainted abominations. Those Imperial psyker mutants, whom the chapter's fleets rely on, such as astropaths, are grudgingly tolerated, but cruelly treated, chained in crammed cells out of sight where not immediately needed. Conversely, there are some highly placed Imperial psykers whom the Black Templars judge to be vessels of the Emperor's will. While the powers attributed to the master of mankind himself, the greatest psyker humanity has ever known, are, to these crusading zealots, simply evidence of his divinity. Now, a lot of people were up in arms about this specifically because they said this was a retcon. But upon doing some further looking into it, it turns that there was a reference to this from the 6th edition codex, or one of the codexes prior, and that in of itself was another change in the lore. But even then, it's not really a retcon, because there is something very important about the Black Templars, and that is the fact that they are the most decentralized Space Marine organization period, even more so than some traitor legions. The Black Templars are not one chapter, they are a crusade, an eternal crusade. For those who don't know, when a crusade is called, a Space Marine may temporarily recruit over the 1,000 Marines. This usually falls to the Scout Company. This is a convenient loophole that the Black Templars have used. Well, of course, if anyone asks them if they have over 1,000 Marines, they just deny it outright because they're the Black Templars. What are you gonna do about it, son? The High Marshal is the chapter master. Besides his august warrior lord and a handful of other individuals and volunteer groups, the Black Templars maintain no chapter-wide institutions. They operate a flexible organization capable of quickly responding to uncovered heresies. The largest operational structure is the Crusade. At times, chapter records have declared its warriors to be spread across only 1 or 2 crusades. At others, there have been more than 10 times this number. Effectively, a self-contained army. A crusade piously maintains its readiness to reach and crush the Emperor's foes. From warp-capable void ships and planetary assault craft, heavy battle tanks, combat walkers, and anti-grav vehicles, and the Space Marines themselves. A crusade boasts everything it needs to wage war for decades at a time. The size of the chapter's crusades can vary greatly. Some number a few dozen warriors, ferried to war aboard a single rapid strike vessel. Even then, the strength and fanaticism they possess are enough to overwhelm the armed crews of larger vessels, tear through alien command posts, and breach cult fortresses to put tainted orators and their unclean idols to the torch. Other crusades are far larger, sometimes numbering 200 or 300 warriors. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the kicker. Each crusade is different, each crusade is unique, and each crusade is nothing like the other. What this is saying is that there are some Black Templar crusades that genuinely hate psykers. Any psykers, navigators or astropaths. Here some people were very upset by this. They make the argument, oh, how on earth could a navigator house or an astropathic choir allow something so valuable to be treated so poorly? For those who don't know, astropaths and navigators have houses, or guilds, or some types of organizations. They're incredibly powerful within the Imperium, the Navis nobility, the navigator houses, being a prime example. And to that I say, you may be all powerful and mighty, but if you're in a room with a man with a gun, he's the one in charge. Also, the Black Templars could just lie about it as well. Like, there's plenty ways to circumnavigate it, because remember, the navigator houses are only going to do something if they know about it, and if they're going to do something, that depends on the politics. It's not that simple, guys. It really isn't. But in the same excerpt, it says that, hey, there are some psykers that they venerate, like the Emperor's Chosen. So again, it depends. Some crusades might beat them into submission like the dogs they are. Other times, they may treat them begrudgingly okay. Or they may not. But generally speaking, when it comes to psykers, Black Templars, not the biggest fans. So if you want to do anything about the Black Templars, don't make them nice with psykers. Just, yeah, nah. The next thing that people were somewhat upset about is the way that the Black Templars interacted with Imperial forces. More specifically, Imperial civilians and Imperial worlds. On worlds the Black Templars conquer, their toiling armies of indoctrinated serfs and lobotomized servitors, raised foreboding chapter keeps, part armored fortification, and part shrine. These fortresses serve as temporary strongholds and mustering points for future crusades. They are glowering reminders to the remaining populace that it was the God Emperor's angels of death who delivered them, and their faith is under constant scrutiny. The Black Templars have no interest in rebuilding worlds they have cast into ruin. They make demands of what the grateful but shattered planet has: raw materials, fuel, a harvest of youths, and depart, eager to purge the next nest of blasphemies. However, even the most heartfelt pleas to the Black Templars by heavily populated planets, facing otherwise certain destruction, are not guaranteed to answer with salvation or mercy. Blinkered by their fierce loyalty to the Emperor, and unwavering devotion to the strict tenets of the Imperial Creed, the Black Templars are stern judges of obligation. Where they find worlds they consider unworthy, corrupted, or wanting in some way in the Crusaders' utterly inflexible assessments, they may instead turn their full wrath upon invader and defender alike. That is very much what the Black Templars are about. The Black Templars are not reasonable. The Black Templars do not care. The Black Templars have one thing to do, and one thing alone. That is, to serve the Emperor. And serve the Emperor the way they seem fit, which is by killing any and everyone who might stand against him. This is something that is not exclusive to the Black Templars. This is perfectly in line with not just the Black Templars, but the Imperium as a whole. Again, the Imperium is not a logical place. The Imperium is not a nice place. The Imperium is a place full of unreason. The Imperium is full of fanaticism. Fanaticism is unreasonable. It doesn't care. Every single time we see the ecclesiarchy mentioned in some way, shape, or form, they always go overboard. Always. And there's always someone there to be like, yo, what the fuck is this? The Black Templars are the ultimate personification of that craziness. Need to remind you, they are the mirror image of the Sisters of Battle. It is canonically stated that these guys are two sides of the same coin here. Hell, that's why they work so well together. And the Sisters of Battle are, again, fucking crazy. Both factions are hyper-religious, ultra-zealotous, zero-understanding rhyme or reason maniacs. Their faith is all, and it's a perversion of the faith. No thinking, no understanding, no questioning, no doubting, no process, nothing. Simple belief, pure and terrifying. To doubt is to not have enough faith, and those who have not enough faith must be dealt with. Words of the ecclesiarchy and words of the Black Templars. Again, in the Codex as well, there's an entry that goes on about how if the Templars have any inclination that an ecclesiarchal world or a holy relic is under threat, they will straight up abandon whatever war zone they're in to go and save that. These are space marines. Yet they're absolutely crazy. There's no rhyme, reason, understanding. They just don't care. And this is something that a lot of people fail to understand. You cannot reason with a Black Templar. You cannot. There is no understanding, there's no if, and, or, buts, or maybe. And this time people will bring up characters like Helbrecht or Grimaldus, but those are the exception, not the rule. And even then, those fellas are plenty batshit crazy. These are the Black Templars. The Black Templars. They're not the Salamanders, they're not the Ultramarines. They're not meant to be anything but what they are. Hyper-radical, hyper-violent, ultra-zealotous, mega-fanatical Crusaders. Or in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. So you need warriors who only know war. Only war. And nothing else. Imperial forces fighting alongside the Black Templars have often been shaken by the totality of the Crusaders' violence. The Black Templars hold fast to the ceramite-clad ideals of warrior honor and humble virtues of the Emperor's vaunted elite. Still, such notions are often very different to those held by others. To ensure he mates a particular enemy champion in single combat, a Black Templars commander will willingly lay waste to manufactories, power grids, and agriplexes, condemning a region's populace to centuries of hardship to come. If the chapter's honor is seen as best met by sweeping onwards and closing the ears to the pleas for the static protection, then so be it. Negotiations with the weak and accommodations reached with Xenos, pandering to the vanities of noble lineages, even amongst the highest strata of imperial power, these and more are anathema to the Black Templars. Their rigid beliefs saturate their entire outlook, such that almost everything is delineated in their view between that which is lit by the will of the God Emperor, and everything else lies in the blackest abyss of blasphemy. Again, it makes more than enough sense. The Black Templars do not care who, what, when, where, or why. They are but servants of the God Emperor, but the God Emperor the way they perceive it. And their perception varies very, very wildly. Again, whilst the Black Templars as a whole do have some certain beliefs, it really depends via crusade to crusade. Each marshal has his own belief. Sure, some Black Templars may be pretty solid defenders of humanity, but in other cases they are literal madmen who commit genocide because you didn't pray hard enough. That is a beauty in the Black Templars, but it's also the greatest weakness, and people had a problem with some of these crusades. Again, claiming that they weren't Black Templars, they were Grim Derp, to use a less than favorable term. One of these was the Morsseous Crusade. Many Black Templars carried the revered bones of hallowed chapter heroes to war, but the macabre warriors of the Morsseous Crusade have taken the practice to new heights. The skull of fallen champions are gilded or bronzed, even steeped in sacred stains of various hues. Bobbing flocks of servo skulls, made from the remains of particularly pious thralls, circle their strike forces, picked recording the holy deeds of purgation and serving as reconnaissance tools. Mechanized ossuaries harvest the battlefields in Crusade's wake, acid scrubbing the flesh from the corpses and reaping huge quantities of new bones. Their warriors clatter as they advance, their battle plates strung with rattling thigh bones, reliquaries of browning spines and caskets of finger bones, recovered from those who righteously pointed out the mutant or the witch in their midst. The Crusade's marshal, Govorin Demir, possesses an extreme intolerance that has found common cause with many Puritan inquisitors. Context reflected in the Crusade's seal. Many of the Crusade's recent battles have fought using information from these figures, or alongside disposable forces provided by them. Demir has also drawn commendation from other inquisitors for acting on his contact's advice to hunt down their rivals. The marshal claims any such division deserves to be veteran burned out of the Emperor's realm. Now again, to a regular Space Marine, this seems pretty wild and weird, but to the Black Templars, it makes perfect sense. While to us in the modern day, having bones of someone holy seems very macabre and just outright weird. Back in the day, during Christianity especially, bones of saints and martyrs were highly revered. To be given the bones of a veteran saint, that was an honor amongst honors, one of the most pious and noble things one could do. And 40k takes a great deal of inspiration from the Gothic era of our history, surprising absolutely no one. And in regards to the Black Templars working with the Inquisition, these are the Emperor's Holy Inquisition. They judge the heretics. Of course the Black Templars will help. And again, the Black Templars are not logical. The Black Templars are not going to stop and think, oh, this Inquisitor is making me take out his rival because of politics. No. Ah yes, this Inquisitor has pointed out division and derision within the Emperor's realm. It must be expunged. That's the thinking process. Is that absolutely batshit insane? Yes. But that's the Black Templars. They're not logical. If you guys ever met someone who's really religious, and not in the good way, in the I don't know what I'm talking about, I just say what I've been told way, they're some of the most insufferable, stupid people you'll ever meet. And spoiler alert, boys and gals, the Black Templars are exactly that. So Black Templar being absolutely macabre, wearing bones, and making up bullshit and doing God Almighty knows how much mental gymnastics that would earn him at least 3 gold medals to help out some bullshit inquisitors? Yeah, that checks out, son. The next one, the main one, and the one that a lot of people were really upset by, was the Caedomian Crusade. Marshal Marga makes many fearful examples upon the worlds he is called to save. Torturous executions, the isolation and incineration of devotionally lax districts, the abduction of whole townships to become aspirants or bonded serfs, sometimes so many as to effectively condemn the remaining populaces to slow extinction. He sees his Caedomian Crusade as an instrument of mentorship in the divine God Emperor's name. In a similar vein, Morgul holds the example set by his crusade initiates to the neophyte wards as amongst the most important marks of a warrior. How else, he demands, can they continue to uphold the Emperor's honor and massacre his enemies if their own trials and tests weaken or degrade? The Caedomian Crusade requires its initiates to meet incredibly stringent standards before being permitted the privilege to train a neophyte. These youths also serve as neophytes for a far longer than in most crusades, and are expected to reach exceptional levels of skill and experience before they can be considered as initiates themselves. The result is a far greater proportion of neophytes than any other Black Templars crusade. These battle brothers are frequently given the most hazardous missions and deployed to the most treacherous and unforgiving of war zones. Roles that, in some crusades, are usually undertaken by veterans. Those who fail their appointed duty, but survive, must endure prolonged rites of penance. The Caedomian Crusade has descended upon many systems that have survived, destroying any knots of doom-mongering, claiming the imperium has fallen. They have shown such worlds, through sometimes excessively destructive examples, that the imperium does indeed endure, and have reaped harvests of zealous and willing recruits to their chaplain's proclamations that the God Emperor has a higher purpose and duty, made ready for those who are worthy. Again, this makes perfect sense. In the Imperium, faith is everything. If you lack faith, you need to make up for that lacking of faith via penance. Penance usually takes a form in terms of physical punishment. Again, this is an idea that existed in our own past. You want to prove your spiritual purity? Suffer via the flesh, because if your spirit is so powerful, it will kill the flesh, meaning that the flesh is nothing, while the spirit is everything. If the flesh is weak, the spirit is weak. A flawed argument, completely wholly and utterly, but one that holds up in Warhammer 40k. To the Black Templars and to the ecclesiarchy as a whole, you have done something bad, you must pay with blood. The Emperor will see your bleeding flesh, and by your pain will your soul be made pure. It is a statement of a broken understanding, a twisted perversion of faith, and something altogether far more darker and evil. Something that the Imperium has fully embraced, and so too have the Black Templars. Now it is important to note, this particular crusade is the most extreme. This is the complete, utter end of the line. This is not something that is normal, it even states it in the excerpt. And this is not a recent development. Many people think that this happened in the past few years. People often blame the advent of 8th edition for all this, what they call major changes to factions or characters. But in truth, that's not the case. The Black Templars have always been like this, way back when during the days of 2005. Taken from 3rd edition Black Templars. For 10,000 years, the Black Templars have crusaded to prove their loyalty, and this creed has become so embodied in their doctrines that they are utterly ruthless towards anyone or anything perceived as a threat to the Emperor. They will mercilessly wipe out the populations of worlds to expunge the sins of heresy, while the mere presence of a witch on the battlefield drives them into a rage of hate and vengeful bloodletting. On each conquered or reclaimed world, the Black Templar establish keeps, grim fortresses that serve as potent reminders that the Emperor is ever watchful. However, the main purpose of chapter keeps is to recruit new space marines from the population and to act as staging posts for mustering the crusades together. Exactly how these crusades communicate with each other is uncertain, though it is speculated that the Black Templars make use of only such navigators and astropaths that have been sanctified by other organizations and are repentant of the curse of psychic powers. These chapter keeps seem sizable, with chambers to accommodate 2 or 3 companies of space marines, but are far smaller than the fortress monasteries of other chapters. There have been hundreds of chapter keeps established over the millennia, some of which are still standing, or often having been abandoned and no longer manned. However, such lonely ruins are never forgotten, and it is not unknown for the Black Templars to return to these keeps, much to the dismay of anything foolish enough to have taken up residence in their absence. So, the new law in the Black Templars Codex is not a retcon, it's not a change, it's just more of the same. But then why were so many people upset by it? Well, quite simply put, they just didn't know the Black Templars were the Black Templars. And that's okay. People fall in love with armies because of some ideals or what they represent or just how they look. To love an army, you don't have to be awesome and amazing and know every single detail of lore about every single neophyte that ever existed. But for those who want to talk about it, for those who are confused, and for those who think that something they've loved for years, if not decades, is being slowly changed and twisted, you begin to understand why they would be upset. But in case this video comes off as me hating on the Black Templars, not at all. Black Templars are exactly what they need to be, and that is crazy. In the world we live in, crazy is something that everyone knows, everyone is scared of, but everyone can appreciate. We all have that one friend who is just absolutely batshit wild, but they are impressive in what they do. The Black Templars are that. In Warhammer 40k, humanity is beset by all types of evil, literal hordes of demons, mind you. Something that is totally and utterly holy anathema to us in the modern day. And if something is unreasonable, how can it be fought with reason? It can only be fought with unreason, and that unreason takes the form of faith. The Black Templars are a group of sons who still carry their father's burden, the burden of shame. Sigismund was so shamed by his interaction with Dorne that it forever scarred him and his sons. The reason why the Black Templars are the way that they are is because that's all they have. Their father, and subsequently all of them in some essence, lost their grandfather. They lost Dorne for their faith. When you lose everything for faith, and the only thing you have left is faith, of course faith would be everything. Faith would be unreasonable. Faith would be unrational. Because it's not founded from a place of acceptance, from a place of warmth, from a place of understanding, from a place of comfort. It's founded from a place of nothing else. This is all I got, chief, so I gotta make this work. That is what the Black Templars are. But the Black Templars are also one of the most effective fighting forces in the Imperium. For all their flaws, for all their unreason, for all the bullshit that makes me really angry, they are righteous Crusaders. They fight for the light of the God Emperor against the darkness of the gods of chaos. Say what you will about the Black Templars, if you want faith, you want fury, and you want righteous smiting, the Black Templars are an amazing part of Warhammer 40k, and in my opinion, they're one of the best factions that describe this setting, and just exactly what we love about it. The crazy wildness of it all, the maddening vigor and righteous zeal that is only possible in the grim darkness of a far future. But in doing so, let us not forget, Warhammer 40k is the future we are trying to avoid, not the future we want to go to. For many of the great heroes that it has many a villain, and not all of them belong to the gods of chaos. But hero or villain, it does not matter. All that matters to the scions of Sigismund is whether or not you follow the light of the God Emperor of all mankind. For if you do, you are a vaunted ally, and shall be defended with righteous honor. But if you are not, then the black blade of the Emperor's champions will soon find its way into your black heart. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what the Black Templars are. Fucking batshit righteous zealous Crusaders. You'd love to have them in a fight, but not so much anywhere else. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you guys think down below. Were you guys alright with the Black Templars? Did you not know really much about them? Did you think the Codex was good? Did you think the Codex was bad? And just love to hear your thoughts down below. Well, I say a massive thank you to you guys for watching, but even more massive thank you to my awesome members and Patreons. We got some new members up in here. Shout out to brand new member, Mr. Matthew Peter, who joined at the private tier. Welcome, sir. Thank you for being here. Love to see ya, and hope you have a bloody good time. And an extra special massive thank you to our first ever captain tier, Mr. Tori. Hi, hello, yo, you and I need to talk. I owe you a video, sire. Tell me what you want me to cover and I'll cover it. And if that wasn't well enough, Mr. Tori also joined on the Lieutenant tier on the Patreon. Which, my god, I'm already making the video, my brother. You tell me what you need, I'll do that shit up right quick. But sir, thank you so much for your support. It means the absolute world to me that you put so much trust and faith into me, and I absolutely appreciate it. And welcome to the Corps. Massive shout out to my officer corps, starting at the captain tier with Mr. Tory. We then have our lieutenant tier with Mr. Eddie V3, Miss Major of the Void, Mr. Curtis Studies, and Mr. Tory. Massive shout out to my sergeant tier members, Mr. Damiak, Mr. Warsmith the Fireheart, Mr. Andy McGee, Mr. Bowen, Mr. Sean RL7, and Mr. Matthew Merrill. Massive shout out to my corporal tier members, Mr. Tremaine the Math Kitty, Mr. Lord Rosarius, Mr. Tech Priest Toaster, Miss Shauna Smithers, the Gentle Salamander, the Wench of Warhammer, and finally, but absolutely not least, shout out to my amazing private tier members, Mr. Thomas Moslons, Mr. Ivan_SVW, Mr. Monkey Man, Mr. Michael Ayeda, Mr. Diego Castro, Mr. Fortisunum, Mr. CMD Nay, Mr. Eric Massaro, Mr. Dom Marek, Mr. Ken_Sakura333, and Mr. Matthew Peter. To each and every one of you, thank you, I love you, I appreciate you. You guys have no idea how much this means to me, and I know I've been slacking a little bit when it comes to stuff. Life has been very hard recently. I won't get into it too much, but life came over. I said, no thank you, I do not consent. Life whispered in my ear and said, consent is a myth, big boy, take off your trousers. And yeah, I'm now in therapy. But to each and every one of you still here, I appreciate you guys, I love you, I haven't forgot. This week, we're getting back to normal. Things are going to be back on track, and for everyone who's being here, whether you're a paid member or not, whether you're just watching the videos, your support and love means the absolute world to me, and I will always be incredibly grateful, and I will love each and every one of you. So whether you sign with our memberships or not, I will love you just the same. Mwah! Yes, I will, ladies and gentlemen, because you guys are bloody amazing, and I really couldn't do this without you. So thank you from the very bottom of my big old heart. But ladies and gentlemen, I've been the General Bradley 101. You've been beautiful, awesome, and amazing people. Thank you all so very much for watching. You all should say hello out there, boys and gals, and I will catch y'all next time. Dismiss, Rangers. I'm just saying, don't ask a Black Templars fan what their waifu is. That's gonna get pretty heretical.